If you close your eyes for a moment, the universe becomes quiet enough to hear. Not silent in the way a room empties, but quiet in the way vast things are quiet. Patient, spacious, unhurried. Tonight, there is no need to solve anything, no need to reach conclusions or carry the weight of understanding. This is simply a place to arrive slowly, as the day loosens its grip and the night opens like a wide, dark ocean above you. Somewhere beyond the thin veil of city lights or rural darkness, beyond the atmosphere that gently holds this planet together, the stars continue their ancient work, shining without effort, without awareness of being observed, offering their light freely to anyone willing to look or simply listen. Perhaps today was long. Perhaps your thoughts have been looping, replaying fragments of conversations, worries about the future, or quiet questions that never quite settle. Maybe sleep has felt distant, not because your body resists rest, but because your mind keeps moving, searching for scale, for meaning, for reassurance. If that feels familiar, you are not alone in it. The human mind was never designed for the speed and density of modern life, yet here you are, doing your best within it. This moment is not asking you to improve, to focus, or to be calm. It is simply offering you a wider frame, one where your thoughts are allowed to soften, not by force, but by perspective. Tonight, that perspective begins with a galaxy you have already seen, even if you didn't realize what you were looking at. A faint, elongated smudge in the sky, visible on clear nights far from bright lights, something easy to dismiss as just another object among many. This is Andromeda, not a symbol, not a metaphor yet, but a real structure, a vast collection of stars, dust, and dark matter, moving together through space, bound by gravity and time. Its light has traveled for about 2.5 million years to reach your eyes, crossing distances so large that numbers begin to lose their sharp edges and turn instead into feelings. A light year, after all, is not meant to be understood, but felt. It is not a unit the mind holds comfortably, but one the imagination gently surrenders to. When we say that Andromeda is 2.5 million light-years away, we are not describing separation in the way we describe distance between cities or continents. We are describing duration. We are saying that the light touching your retina tonight began its journey long before modern humans existed, long before language took its current shape, long before the idea of a self became something we could name. And yet, here it is, arriving now, precisely when you are here to receive it. Nothing in the universe is hurried, not even light. It moves at its ultimate speed, yes, but without urgency, without concern for arrival. In that sense, Andromeda is not rushing toward you, and you are not late in seeing it. The meeting happens when it happens, and that is enough. This simple truth can feel strangely comforting when applied back to our own lives. So much of our anxiety comes from imagined delays, from the feeling of being behind some invisible schedule. But the cosmos offers no such pressure. It unfolds because it unfolds, not because it must. As we begin this journey into the true scale of Andromeda, there is no expectation that you will hold all the details, remember every idea, or stay awake through every moment. This is a long path, meant to be walked slowly, with pauses, with drift, with space for your thoughts to wander and settle. The universe slows down for those who listen, and listening does not require effort. It only requires allowing the vastness to exist alongside you without resistance. You are small, and yet deeply connected. Every atom in your body was formed in stars not unlike the ones that fill Andromeda's spiraling arms. Every breath you take moves matter that has been part of this universe since near its beginning. Separation, when viewed this way, becomes a useful illusion, something that helps us navigate daily life, but dissolves when we look too closely. In the quiet of the cosmos, the mind finds space, and in that space, even the heaviest thoughts can begin to rest. So tonight, let Andromeda remain where it is, distant, immense, unconcerned, while you remain where you are, safe, grounded, supported by the quiet pull of gravity and the steady turning of the Earth. There is nothing you need to do to prepare. The story is already unfolding, and you are already part of it. As we move forward, slowly and gently, you may find that scale does not diminish you, but instead offers relief. And in that relief, sleep often finds its way home. There are moments when distance feels like absence, when something important seems unreachable, not because it is gone, but because it exists beyond the scale of our everyday senses. We speak of distance as if it were an emotional barrier, a cold stretch of emptiness separating one thing from another. Yet in the universe, distance is rarely emptiness. It is continuity, it is duration, it is connection extended over time rather than space torn apart. Andromeda is often described as far away, but this word carries a human bias, one rooted in bodies that move slowly, lives that are brief, and minds accustomed to measuring meaning by immediacy. At this very moment, light from Andromeda is resting on your eyes, whether you are looking at the night sky or not. It has already arrived. It crossed 2.5 million years of space-time to reach this planet, slipping between galaxies, passing through the quiet architecture of the cosmos, never pausing, never asking whether anyone would be there to notice. That light began its journey when early human ancestors were just beginning to walk upright, when language as we know it did not exist, when the concept of worry had not yet taken shape. And still it came, patiently, faithfully, without deviation. When that light touches your retina, it does not announce its age. It does not carry a label telling you how long it has traveled or what it has witnessed along the way. It simply arrives as a faint glow, easily overlooked, easily dismissed. Yet contained within it is a story longer than any civilization, older than any memory, deeper than any archive humanity has ever built. To realize this is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to soften the sharp edges of the present moment. We often imagine distance as something that pushes things apart, but on a cosmic scale, distance is what allows things to remain themselves. Without distance, stars would collapse into chaos, galaxies would lose their structure, and the universe would become an unrecognizable blur of heat and motion. Distance is not neglect, it is spacing. It is the gentle allowance that lets systems breathe, evolve, and endure. In that sense, Andromeda is not distant from you in a meaningful way. It is simply operating on a scale where urgency has no relevance. The human mind struggles here not because it is weak, but because it is finely tuned for survival on a small planet. Our intuition evolved to measure distances that could be crossed on foot, dangers that could be escaped within minutes, changes that mattered within a lifetime. When we try to apply those instincts to galaxies, the result is confusion or emotional disconnection. We label Andromeda as far because our bodies cannot travel there, but this says more about us than about the galaxy itself. Space is often imagined as empty, a vast nothingness separating islands of matter. This image is deeply misleading. Space is not a void, it is a medium. It is filled with gravitational fields, magnetic influences, faint radiation, drifting particles, and the subtle curvature of space-time itself. Between you and Andromeda, there is structure, invisible, yes, but real.
Universe is not a collection of isolated objects floating in nothing. It is a continuous fabric, gently folded and stretched by mass and energy. This is why the idea of absolute separation begins to dissolve when we look closely. Gravity does not stop at borders. Time does not reset between galaxies. The same physical laws that shape your heartbeat shape the rotation of Andromeda's spiral arms. The same forces that bind atoms in your body bind stars into galaxies. When you inhale, you are participating in processes that are universal, not local. When you exist everywhere the universe allows existence to happen. Andromeda, then, is not an object over there.
It is part of a shared system of motion and influence. Its gravity already reaches toward the Milky Way, imperceptibly but relentlessly. Over billions of years, this mutual pull will reshape both galaxies, not through violence, but through a slow, intricate dance. Even now, the future interaction between Andromeda and our own galaxy is already encoded in the present, not as a threat, but as a continuation. When we say that Andromeda is 2.5 million light-years away, what we are really saying is that the universe remembers itself. Light is memory. It carries information forward through time, allowing the past to remain visible long after it has passed. In this sense, you are never truly isolated in the present. You are surrounded by ancient messages arriving continuously, quietly reminding you that time is layered, not linear. This realization can gently ease the feeling of emotional distance many people carry. The sense of being disconnected from others, from meaning, from the world itself, often arises from the illusion that we exist alone in the present moment. But the universe does not operate that way. Everything you see is delayed. Everything you experience is already part of a vast overlap between past and now. You are never standing at a sharp edge of time. You are always within a gradient. Andromeda is already happening within you, not metaphorically but physically. The atoms in your body were forged in stars that lived and died long before the Milky Way took its current shape. Some of those stars may have existed in galaxies very much like Andromeda, perhaps even within it. Matter does not respect galactic boundaries over deep time. It circulates, it migrates, it recombines. What you call you is a temporary arrangement of materials that have been everywhere. To feel small in this context is not an insult. It is a release. Smallness here does not mean insignificant. It means unburdened. It means you are not required to carry the weight of the universe on your shoulders. The universe carries itself. Your role within it is simply to exist, to experience, to notice when noticing feels possible. Nothing more is demanded. Distance loses its emotional sharpness when we understand it as scale rather than separation. Andromeda is not far in the way loneliness is far. It is not distant in the way abandonment is distant. It is extended. It is vast. It is operating on a timeline where rushing would make no sense at all. And when you allow your thoughts to slow to that rhythm, something within you often follows. Your thoughts soften as the stars drift farther away. Not because they are leaving you behind, but because they invite you to expand your sense of what near and far really mean. Near is what touches you instantly. Far is what touches you eventually. Andromeda has already touched you. It did so the moment its light arrived, indifferent to whether you were ready. There is comfort hidden in this quiet inevitability. Things do not need to hurry to reach you. They arrive when the universe allows. You do not need to chase meaning across impossible distances. Meaning unfolds where you are, informed by everything that came before. In a cosmos this patient, even uncertainty has room to breathe. As you rest with this idea, you may notice that the feeling of emotional distance, from people, from purpose, from yourself, begins to lose some of its intensity. If galaxies can remain connected across millions of light years, then perhaps connection does not require constant closeness. Perhaps it survives gaps, silence, and time. Perhaps it was never as fragile as it felt. Andromeda is not far. It is simply vast. And you are not disconnected. You are simply small enough to be carried by something much larger, something that does not ask you to understand it fully, only to exist within it. And in that existence, there is already more connection than the mind usually allows itself to feel. There is a quiet discomfort that comes from realizing how little of reality we actually see, not because we are careless or inattentive, but because our senses were never designed to perceive most of what exists. We move through life guided by surfaces, by outlines, by what reflects light and announces itself clearly. Yet the universe does not reveal itself so easily. It hides its largest truths in what does not glow, what does not shine, what does not pose for photographs. Andromeda, like much of existence, is mostly invisible. When we picture Andromeda, the image that usually forms is familiar and comforting. A graceful spiral, a soft, luminous disk, a galaxy that looks orderly, complete, almost contained within the frame of a telescope image. This picture has been shared for decades, refined by better instruments, sharper sensors, deeper exposures. It feels authoritative, it feels final, and yet it represents only a fraction of what Andromeda truly is. Beyond the bright spiral arms, beyond the central bulge dense with ancient stars, there exists a far larger structure, one that does not announce itself with light. A vast halo stretches outward in all directions, populated by faint stars, globular clusters, streams of stellar debris, and something even more elusive, dark matter. This halo does not glow, it does not pose, it does not make itself easy to imagine, and yet it contains most of the galaxy's mass. The true size of Andromeda changes dramatically when we include what cannot be seen. Its luminous disk spans roughly 220,000 light-years, already making it larger than the Milky Way, but its halo extends much farther, perhaps more than 1 million light-years across. When this invisible structure is accounted for, the boundaries between Andromeda and our own galaxy begin to blur. Their halos may already be touching, overlapping softly, exchanging gravitational whispers long before their visible disks ever meet. This realization asks something gentle but profound of the mind. It asks us to release the idea that what we see is what exists. In everyday life, this illusion often feels necessary. We trust what is visible because it helps us move efficiently, make decisions, survive. But when applied to deeper questions, about meaning, about relationships, about the self, this same habit can quietly limit us. The universe offers Andromeda as a reminder that the largest structures are often the least visible. Dark matter, which makes up the majority of the galaxy's mass, does not emit or absorb light. We infer its presence only through its gravitational influence. Stars orbit faster than they should. Galaxies hold together when visible matter alone would not be enough. Something unseen is doing most of the work. There is something quietly reassuring about this. The universe does not require visibility to validate existence. Contribution does not depend on recognition. Stability does not depend on brightness. Much of what holds Andromeda together will never be photographed, never be directly observed, never be named with certainty. And yet, without it, the galaxy would unravel. Our favorite images of Andromeda, beautiful as they are, hide this truth. They frame the galaxy as an object with clear edges, a luminous island floating in darkness. But reality is more like a fog than an island. Edges dissolve, boundaries soften, stars wander far from the central disk, moving on elongated paths that take millions of years to complete. Streams of stars, remnants of smaller galaxies long ago absorbed, arc quietly through the halo, like memories that never fully fade. To imagine Andromeda accurately, one must imagine something that cannot be fully pictured. A structure defined not by sharp lines, but by gradients, not by brightness, but by influence. This is deeply uncomfortable for a mind trained to seek clarity and completion, and yet it mirrors the human experience with remarkable precision. Most of who you are is not visible. The thoughts you never speak, the emotions you do not fully understand, the memories that shape you quietly without announcement, the parts of yourself that do not shine but stabilize. Life, like a galaxy, is mostly made of what does not emit light. The iceberg is a familiar metaphor, but it remains useful because it is honest. The visible tip feels substantial, but it is supported by something much larger beneath the surface. In Andromeda, the glowing spiral is the tip. The halo, the dark matter, the faint stars, these are the mass below. To mistake the visible for the whole is not a failure of intelligence, it is a limitation of perception. In daily life, this mistake can create subtle forms of anxiety. We compare our visible progress to the visible progress of others. We judge our worth by what is seen, measured, acknowledged. We forget that most growth happens invisibly, slowly, without applause. The universe does not make this mistake. It builds its largest structures quietly. Andromeda did not grow into its present form through sudden brilliance. It evolved through accumulation, through mergers so slow they would feel like stillness to a human observer, through the gradual settling of matter over billions of years. Its halo is a historical record, preserving the traces of everything it has ever absorbed. Nothing is truly lost, it is redistributed. This idea can feel unexpectedly comforting when applied inward. Experiences that feel forgotten may still be shaping you. Relationships that ended may still be influencing your internal structure. Effort that seemed invisible may still be contributing to stability you cannot yet see. Like Andromeda's dark matter, these elements exert force without drawing attention. The human mind often craves completion, a sense that something is finished, fully known, resolved. But galaxies are never finished. They are processes, not objects. Andromeda is still forming stars, still accreting matter, still evolving its structure. Even its invisible disk is not static. It breathes, stretches, responds to its environment. To accept this is to accept that not knowing everything is not a failure. It is the natural state of complex systems. Psychological rest often comes not from clarity, but from permission. Permission to exist without full comprehension. When you stop demanding that life present itself clearly, it often becomes gentler. The invisible parts of Andromeda remind us that reality is layered. What we see is real, but incomplete. What we cannot see is not absent, only subtle. This applies equally to the cosmos and to the inner world. Much of what sustains you operates quietly without spectacle. As you imagine Andromeda now, try not to picture a photograph. Instead, imagine a presence, a vast region of influence, softly defined, extending far beyond what light reveals. Imagine its gravity curving space, its history embedded in faint stellar streams, its future already shaping the motion of our own galaxy. Imagine something that does not need to be seen to be real. Perhaps, in this expanded image, something within you relaxes. The pressure to be visible, the pressure to be understood, the pressure to define yourself sharply. Galaxies do not do this. They exist as gradients, as overlapping processes, as evolving patterns. They are not anxious about their edges. In the quiet of the cosmos, the mind finds space. Space not just as distance, but as allowance. Andromeda's invisible disk becomes a gentle lesson that wholeness does not require visibility, and that much of what matters most works best when it is not rushed into the light. As this chapter settles, the image of Andromeda may feel less like an object and more like an environment, something you are already inside, rather than something far away. And in that realization, the sense of seeing only fragments begins to soften. Perhaps fragments are not failures of perception, but invitations to imagine more gently, more patiently, more completely than sight alone would allow. There is a kind of movement so gradual that it feels indistinguishable from stillness. It does not announce itself. It does not interrupt. It does not demand attention. And yet, over enough time, it changes everything. The universe is full of this kind of motion, patient, quiet, unfolding beneath the threshold of urgency. The approach between the Milky Way and Andromeda belongs to this category. It is happening now, not as an event, but as a condition. From a human perspective, nothing appears to be changing. The night sky looks the same as it did a century ago. Andromeda still hangs faintly in the same region of darkness, offering no visible sign of motion or intention. But beneath this apparent stillness, gravity is at work, threading a connection between two immense systems. The distance between them is shrinking, not dramatically, not urgently, but steadily. by roughly 100 kilometers every second, a number that sounds large until it is placed against cosmic scales, where even such speeds feel almost contemplative. This slow convergence can feel strangely reassuring when anxiety presses heavily on the mind. Much of human stress arises from the sense that the future is rushing toward us, filled with deadlines, consequences, irreversible moments. The universe offers a different tempo. Even the collision of galaxies, an event involving hundreds of billions of stars, unfolds over billions of years. Nothing snaps, nothing crashes in the way the word collision might suggest. Instead, there is a gradual interweaving, a long gravitational conversation carried out in silence. The dance between Andromeda and the Milky Way began long before humans were here to name it. Both galaxies formed within the same region of the universe, part of a shared gravitational neighborhood. From the beginning, their motions were never independent. They have been influencing each other subtly for billions of years, their paths shaped by mutual attraction and the invisible mass surrounding them both. What feels like an approaching future is, in truth, a continuation of a relationship that has always existed. When people imagine galactic collisions, they often picture chaos, stars smashing into each other, planets torn apart, light exploding in violent displays. This image is understandable, shaped by our experience with collisions at human scales. But galaxies are mostly empty space. The distance between stars is so vast that even during a merger, direct stellar collisions are exceedingly rare. Instead of destruction, what unfolds is reorganization. Stars pass by one another like dancers crossing a vast ballroom, their trajectories gently altered by gravitational tides. Gas clouds compress and stretch, sometimes igniting bursts of star formation, sometimes dispersing into quieter configurations. Over immense spans of time, spiral arms dissolve, new structures emerge, and two distinct galaxies gradually become one, not through force, but through patience. This reframing matters, especially for minds weighed down by anticipation. The future often feels threatening because it is imagined as sudden and uncontrollable. The universe suggests another possibility: that transformation can be slow, spacious, and survivable, that even immense change does not require violence, that becoming something new does not mean annihilating what came before. Cosmic time operates as an antidote to urgency. It does not deny that change will happen, but it removes the pressure that change must happen quickly. When measured in billions of years, even dramatic events become gentle. This does not make human concerns trivial. It simply places them within a wider rhythm, where panic loses its authority. The future interaction between Andromeda and the Milky Way will not be witnessed by any living human. The night sky will not suddenly rearrange itself within a lifetime. There will be no moment when someone looks up and sees two galaxies crashing together. Instead, the process will unfold so slowly that each generation will see only a subtle difference from the last. A slightly brighter sky, a faint elongation where once there was symmetry, a gradual reshaping that requires patience to notice. This slowness can feel deeply comforting to those anxious about what lies ahead. The universe does not ambush itself. It does not leap from one state to another without transition. Even endings arrive gradually with long periods of overlap, where what was and what will be coexist. The present is never erased instantly. It fades, blends, transforms. The idea that the future does not threaten but transforms is woven into the structure of galaxies. Andromeda's eventual merger with the Milky Way will not destroy the stars within either system. Most stars will continue their journeys, now within a larger, combined gravitational home. Planets will remain bound to their suns. Night skies, from whatever worlds may exist then, will still be filled with stars. What will change is perspective, the shape of the sky, the distribution of light, the sense of where one structure ends and another begins. This mirrors the way change often works in human lives. We fear loss, but what usually occurs is reconfiguration. Old identities dissolve into broader ones, boundaries soften, What felt separate becomes integrated. Time, in the cosmic sense, does not rush toward conclusions. It allows processes to complete themselves fully. This stands in sharp contrast to the way modern life compresses time, demanding immediate outcomes and rapid adaptation. When the mind absorbs this cosmic pacing, something within it often relaxes. The nervous system, attuned to threat and urgency, finds permission to slow down. Andromeda's approach is not a countdown. It is not a ticking clock. It is a gentle reminder that even the largest futures unfold quietly. You do not need to brace yourself for what is coming. The universe does not require tension to function. It does not hurry its transformations, and it does not punish stillness. As you sit with this idea, you may notice your own relationship with time begin to soften. The pressure to anticipate every outcome, the fear of falling behind, the sense that life is accelerating beyond your ability to keep up. These feelings are human, understandable, and not wrong, but they are not the only tempo available to you. The cosmos offers another rhythm, one where waiting is not wasted, where becoming is more important than arriving, where the present moment is not a narrow ledge but a wide field. In that field, you are allowed to exist without urgency. You are allowed to move at the speed of understanding, not at the speed of fear. Even now, as Andromeda draws closer, nothing demands your attention. The galaxy does not ask you to prepare. It does not require acknowledgement. Its movement is inevitable but not invasive. It respects scale. It respects time. It respects the continuity of what already exists. Perhaps this is why thinking about galaxies can feel calming during moments of anxiety. They remind us that the future is not a sudden wall rushing toward us. It is a landscape that unfolds gradually, often imperceptibly, until one day we realize we are already living within it. The slow dance of galaxies teaches a quiet lesson, that change does not need to be feared when it is allowed to take its time, that nothing meaningful is lost all at once, that even the merging of worlds can happen without panic, without collapse, without the need for constant vigilance. As this chapter settles into silence, imagine the Milky Way and Andromeda not as rivals or strangers, but as long-term companions moving through the universe together, their futures intertwined in ways too slow to disrupt the present. And in that image, perhaps your own relationship with the future can become a little gentler, a little less urgent, a little more spacious. The universe is not rushing toward an ending. It is unfolding toward continuity, and you, here and now, are part of that unfolding, not as something that must hurry, but as something allowed to take its time. There is something quietly paradoxical about Andromeda. On a clear, dark night, far from artificial lights, it fits easily within the human field of vision. No telescope is required, no advanced technology, just eyes adapted to darkness and a moment of patience. There it is, a faint, elongated glow, small enough to be covered by a fingertip held at arm's length. And yet, this same object contains hundreds of billions, perhaps more than 1 trillion stars, along with planets, nebulae, and structures so vast that language begins to falter when trying to describe them. It fits in the sky, but it does not fit in the mind. This contrast can feel unsettling at first. How can something so immense appear so modest? How can an object larger than our entire galaxy seem smaller than the moon in the night sky? The answer lies not in Andromeda itself, but in the way human perception works. Our eyes are remarkable instruments, but they are not designed to communicate scale. They register brightness, contrast, and shape, but they compress vast distances into manageable images. This compression is useful for survival, but it comes at a cost. It gives us the illusion that seeing something means understanding it. Andromeda exposes this illusion gently but firmly. You can see it, yet comprehension slips away. You can point to it, yet its true dimensions refuse to settle into a stable concept. This gap between perception and understanding is not a flaw, it is a boundary, one that protects the mind from overload. The universe does not expect you to hold its full complexity at once. It allows itself to be glimpsed in fragments, knowing that total comprehension would be overwhelming. The human brain evolved to navigate environments measured in meters and kilometers, in hours and years. It excels at social complexity, emotional nuance, and pattern recognition within limited scales. But when confronted with structures composed of trillions of stars spread across hundreds of thousands of light years, the brain does something sensible. It resists. It simplifies. It refuses to fully simulate what it cannot meaningfully act upon. This resistance often manifests as cognitive overload, a subtle mental fatigue, a sense of pressure when trying to wrap one's head around cosmic scales. Many people interpret this as intellectual failure, as if not understanding the universe were a personal shortcoming. In reality, it is an act of self-preservation. The mind is conserving energy, refusing to expand beyond what is necessary for well-being. Andromeda becomes a kind of mirror here. It shows us the limits of conceptual space. Just as the galaxy extends far beyond its visible disk, thought extends far beyond conscious awareness, but not infinitely. There is a point where thought dissolves into feeling, where numbers lose meaning and are replaced by intuition. This is not a lesser mode of knowing, it is a different one. When astronomers describe Andromeda, they rely on layers of abstraction, numbers, models, simulations. Each layer removes the object further from direct experience, yet brings it closer to scientific accuracy. For the non-specialist, this can feel alienating. Trillions, millions of light years, dark matter halos. These terms stack upon each other until the mind quietly opts out, drifting instead toward imagery or emotion. This drift is not a mistake. It is a natural response to scale. When the conceptual field becomes too large, the psyche seeks rest. It seeks metaphor. It seeks acceptance rather than mastery. To accept that Andromeda cannot be fully imagined is to give the mind permission to stop striving where striving offers no reward. There is deep psychological relief in this acceptance. Much of modern stress comes from the belief that everything must be understood, managed, optimized. The universe quietly contradicts this belief. It presents objects that can be seen but not contained, known but not grasped, studied but never exhausted. Andromeda is one of these objects. It invites humility, not as humiliation, but as rest. The discrepancy between visual field and conceptual field mirrors an experience many people have internally, emotions that are felt but not easily named, life situations that are visible but not fully comprehensible, a sense of being present within something larger than one's understanding. These experiences can be unsettling if one believes that clarity is always required, but the cosmos suggests otherwise. To live within limits is not to be diminished, it is to be properly scaled. The mind, like the eye, has a field beyond which detail fades. This fading is not loss, it is softness. It prevents overwhelm. It allows focus. It creates gradients rather than sharp edges. When you look at Andromeda and feel the mind gently recoil from its true size, notice that nothing bad happens. There is no penalty for not understanding. The galaxy does not become inaccessible. It does not withdraw. It remains exactly what it is, indifferent to your comprehension. This indifference is strangely kind. It removes performance from the equation. You are not required to get it. Accepting non-understanding can feel like letting go of control, and control often masquerades as safety. But real safety sometimes lies in recognizing what does not need to be controlled. The universe is not asking for cognitive dominance, it is offering presence. In this sense, Andromeda becomes a place where the mind can rest. You can allow the numbers to blur. You can allow the scale to remain vague. You can replace precision with wonder, and wonder with calm. Psychological rest does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing when to stop. The brain, when relieved of the burden of total comprehension, often shifts into a slower rhythm. Thoughts lengthen, associations soften, attention widens. This is the same state many people seek through meditation or sleep, a state where effort recedes and awareness remains without strain. The cosmos offers this state naturally, if allowed. Andromeda fits in the sky because the sky itself is an illusion of proximity. It is a dome created by perception, not a boundary imposed by reality. The mind tries to do the same thing, to dome the universe into something manageable. When it fails, it learns something valuable, that not everything needs to fit. There is also a quiet dignity in the limits of understanding. To accept them is to align with the universe as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. The cosmos is not built for ease of comprehension. It is built for continuity, complexity, and time. Human understanding is a local phenomenon, beautifully tuned, but not universal. As this chapter unfolds, you may notice a subtle easing of mental pressure, the need to figure things out, the compulsion to resolve every question. Andromeda does not resolve, it persists, it exists beyond closure, and in its persistence, it offers a model for living with unanswered questions. You are allowed not to know. You are allowed to feel small without feeling inadequate. You are allowed to rest in partial understanding. The universe does not collapse when you stop trying to hold it all. It continues, steady and vast, carrying you within it regardless. In the quiet of the cosmos, the mind finds space. Not the space of answers, but the space of permission. Permission to stop measuring, permission to stop grasping, permission to simply observe, or even to turn away and sleep, knowing that Andromeda will remain, unchanged by your attention, patient beyond imagining. And perhaps this is the most generous lesson of scale, that understanding has limits, and peace often begins exactly there. There is a quiet exhaustion that settles into people who feel as though they are always behind schedules, behind expectations, behind some invisible pace that seems to govern modern life. Even rest can feel rushed, as if it must be efficient, productive, justified. Against this background of constant acceleration, the universe offers a radically different example. Andromeda contains trillions of stars, yet nothing within it is in a hurry. Nothing is late, nothing is racing toward completion. Star formation in Andromeda is a slow, almost imperceptible process. New stars do not burst into existence on command. They emerge gradually, over millions of years, from cold clouds of gas and dust that drift quietly through the galaxy's spiral arms. Gravity gathers these clouds gently, compressing them until regions grow dense enough to ignite nuclear fusion. Even then, the process unfolds patiently. There is no sudden announcement, no dramatic beginning that marks a precise moment. A star simply begins to shine, as if it had always been preparing to do so. The rate at which Andromeda forms new stars is modest. It is not a galaxy in a frantic phase of growth, nor one racing toward collapse. It exists in a long, stable middle age, where change continues but without urgency. Some stars are born, some exhaust their fuel and fade. Most simply continue, burning steadily for billions of years, indifferent to the passage of time as humans experience it. This pace stands in quiet contrast to the way people often feel they must live. The pressure to accelerate is rarely questioned. Faster communication, faster results, faster improvement. Slowness is treated as inefficiency, delay as failure. Yet the universe demonstrates, repeatedly, that lasting structures are built slowly. Galaxies that endure are not those that burn brightest, fastest, but those that balance creation and stability over immense spans of time. Andromeda's stars are not synchronized. They do not evolve together. Each follows its own timeline, determined by mass, composition, and environment. Massive stars live briefly and dramatically, while smaller stars burn gently for tens or hundreds of billions of years. There is no single clock governing them all. The galaxy does not impose uniformity, it allows diversity of pace. This idea can feel unexpectedly relieving when applied inward. Human lives are often measured against external timelines, career milestones, social expectations, imagined deadlines for happiness or success. When those timelines are not met, exhaustion and self-judgment often follow. But the universe offers no universal schedule. Even within a single galaxy, time unfolds differently for every star. Comparing human life cycles to galactic cycles reveals a mismatch so large that it dissolves the idea of being behind. A human life, even a long one, is a brief flicker compared to the lifespan of a galaxy. This is not meant to diminish the importance of individual experience. It is meant to remove unnecessary pressure. No single moment is required to carry the weight of cosmic significance. Meaning does not depend on speed. In Andromeda, nothing is optimized for haste. Gas clouds drift until gravity slowly reshapes them. Stars orbit the galactic center over hundreds of millions of years. Entire spiral arms evolve gradually, responding to density waves that move through the disk like slow pulses. Even change, when it happens, respects the scale of the system. Burnout often arises from sustained misalignment between internal capacity and external demand. The human nervous system is not designed for constant acceleration. It responds to prolonged urgency with fatigue, anxiety, and withdrawal. When the mind encounters a system like Andromeda, vast, complex, and entirely unhurried, it can begin to recalibrate its sense of what is necessary. There is comfort hidden in scales where nothing needs to happen quickly. In such scales, rest is not a pause between actions, but a condition of existence. Most stars spend their lives in stable equilibrium, not in dramatic transitions. Most of the galaxy's history is quiet. Nothing explodes, nothing collapses. It simply continues. This quiet continuation is not empty. It is full of processes unfolding at their natural pace. The absence of urgency does not mean the absence of meaning. On the contrary, meaning in the universe seems to emerge precisely because things are allowed to take their time. Structures become intricate because they are not rushed. When people feel exhausted, they often believe they need more time. But time alone is not always the solution. What they often need is a different relationship with time, one that is not dominated by urgency. Andromeda offers such a relationship as an example. It shows that even systems containing trillions of components can function without haste. Nothing in Andromeda is late. A star that ignites today is not behind one that ignited billions of years ago. It is simply following its own path. A star that will not form for another 100 million years is not delayed. It is waiting in a way that carries no tension. Waiting, in the cosmic sense, is not anxious. It is simply potential existing without pressure. This is difficult for the human mind to adopt, because waiting in human life is often associated with uncertainty or lack. But in the universe, waiting is the default state. Most things are always becoming, but slowly. If you imagine Andromeda now, not as a static image, but as a living system unfolding at its own pace, something within the mind may begin to loosen. The feeling of being chased by time can soften. The belief that everything important must happen soon begins to lose its grip. The universe does not reward speed. It rewards balance. It does not value urgency. It values continuity. Stars that burn too quickly destroy themselves. Systems that move too fast destabilize. Endurance, not acceleration, is what allows galaxies to persist. In this sense, Andromeda becomes a quiet teacher. It does not instruct directly. It simply exists in a way that contradicts the culture of haste. It shows that nothing essential is lost by moving slowly, and much is preserved. As your thoughts rest with this idea, you may notice your own internal tempo begin to change. Breathing deepens slightly. Muscles soften. The mind stops scanning for what comes next. There is nowhere you need to arrive within this scale. There is nothing you are late for. Trillions of stars burn without urgency. They do not compare themselves to one another. They do not measure progress. They simply follow the physics that allows them to exist, and in doing so, they create a galaxy of immense beauty and stability. You are not required to live at the speed of expectation. You are allowed to exist at the speed of understanding, at the speed of recovery, at the speed of becoming. The universe demonstrates that slowness is not failure. It is how complexity survives. As this chapter gently settles, let Andromeda remain in your imagination as a place where nothing is rushed and nothing is wasted. A place where time is spacious enough to hold everything without pressure. And within that spaciousness, perhaps the exhaustion you carry can begin, very quietly, to loosen its grip. There is a subtle habit embedded deep within human language, so familiar that it rarely draws attention to itself. We speak of other galaxies, of distant systems beyond our own, as if they exist in a separate category of reality. The phrase feels harmless, even practical. Yet within it hides a quiet division, one that gently reinforces the feeling of separation many people already carry. Andromeda is often described as another galaxy, but this description is more cultural than physical, more psychological than cosmic. In reality, Andromeda is not an outsider to our existence. It is not an object passing through a foreign universe unrelated to the Milky Way. Both galaxies belong to the same gravitational family, the same slow-moving structure known as the local group. This is not a poetic idea, but a physical one. Gravity binds these galaxies together, shaping their motions, influencing their futures, ensuring that none of them truly exist in isolation. The local group is a collection of more than 50 galaxies, varying in size and brightness, all orbiting a shared center of mass. The Milky Way and Andromeda are its largest members, accompanied by smaller satellite galaxies that drift around them like quiet companions. This group stretches across several million light-years, forming an interconnected region of space where motions are not random, but related. To imagine the local group is to imagine an archipelago rather than scattered islands lost in an endless ocean. Each galaxy is distinct, yet none are truly alone. Their paths are shaped not only by their own mass, but by the presence of their neighbors. Even the smallest dwarf galaxies feel the pull of larger ones, their stars stretched into faint streams that trace ancient interactions. When we call Andromeda another galaxy, we unconsciously imply separation, as if it exists outside our story. But physically, Andromeda has always been part of the same narrative. From the earliest moments of structure formation in the universe, both galaxies emerged within the same region of matter, shaped by the same primordial conditions. Their histories diverged, but never fully separated. This misunderstanding mirrors a common emotional experience. People often feel as though they exist apart from the world around them, disconnected from systems too large to perceive directly. Society reinforces this feeling by emphasizing individuality without context, separateness without belonging. The universe, however, tells a different story. It is built from nested systems, each one contained within something larger, each one influencing and being influenced. The idea of belonging does not require proximity. Andromeda is over 2 million light-years away, yet it belongs to the same gravitational structure as we do. Belonging, in the cosmic sense, is not about closeness or familiarity. It is about participation in the same forces, the same flows, the same long-term patterns. This perspective can gently ease the feeling of not belonging that so many carry. If galaxies separated by unimaginable distances are still part of the same system, then perhaps belonging does not require constant contact, visibility, or recognition. Perhaps it exists quietly, sustained by shared structure rather than daily interaction. The local group itself is moving through space, drawn toward an even larger structure known as the Virgo cluster. In this way, even the group that contains Andromeda and the Milky Way is not independent. It is part of a hierarchy of belonging, each level nested within another, each motion shaped by something larger still. The universe is not a collection of isolated units. It is a network. Language struggles to reflect this reality because human experience is rooted in boundaries, borders, categories, distinctions that help us navigate daily life. These distinctions are useful, but they are not fundamental. In physics, boundaries are often fuzzy, defined by gradients rather than sharp edges. Galaxies overlap through their halos. Groups blend into clusters. Matter flows along filaments that connect structures across hundreds of millions of light years. To imagine Andromeda as separate is to impose a human preference for neat divisions onto a universe that does not use them. The error is not harmful, but it is limiting. It narrows the sense of connection and reinforces the illusion of isolation. When corrected, even gently, it can expand the way we think about belonging. Andromeda's gravity already reaches into our region of space. Its dark matter halo overlaps with that of the Milky Way. Their future merger is not a sudden meeting between strangers, but the continuation of a long-standing relationship. In a very real sense, they have always been interacting, always been aware of each other through the silent language of gravity. This challenges the idea that meaningful connection requires immediacy. Gravity does not need speed to be effective. It operates across distance, across time, without urgency. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, shaping outcomes quietly. There is something deeply comforting in this model of connection. Human relationships often feel fragile because they rely on constant reinforcement, communication, proximity, shared experience. When these are disrupted, connection can feel threatened. But the universe suggests another form of connection, one that persists even in silence, even across immense gaps. Belonging to something larger does not require understanding it fully. No star understands the galaxy it inhabits. No galaxy comprehends the cluster it belongs to, yet they are undeniably part of those structures. Their participation does not depend on awareness, it depends on existence. This idea can offer relief to those who feel overwhelmed by the need to make sense of everything. You do not need to grasp the full complexity of the systems you are part of in order to belong to them. You already do. The universe does not withhold belonging until comprehension is achieved. When you imagine Andromeda now, try not to place it in the category of other. Imagine it instead as a neighbor within a shared landscape, moving through the same cosmic environment, subject to the same fundamental laws. Imagine the local group as a slow-moving community, bound not by intention, but by physics. This reframing can soften the sense of separateness that often underlies existential discomfort. The feeling of being alone in a vast universe is powerful, but it is also incomplete. The universe is vast, yes, but it is structured, and within that structure, nothing exists entirely on its own. Even emptiness, when examined closely, is not empty. It carries fields, fluctuations, potentials. Separation, when examined deeply, reveals connection. Andromeda's distance does not negate its relationship to us. It defines the scale at which that relationship unfolds. As this chapter settles, the idea of another galaxy may begin to feel less accurate, less necessary. Andromeda does not need to be framed as other in order to be meaningful. It can simply be what it is, part of the same cosmic system that includes you, your planet, your thoughts, your quiet presence here and now. In a universe built from belonging rather than isolation, the feeling of not fitting in begins to lose some of its sharpness. You are part of something larger, without needing to earn that place. You belong by existing. Andromeda belongs the same way. There is a quiet unease that often accompanies the idea of loss, the sense that something meaningful can vanish suddenly, leaving behind an absence too sharp to soften. Human experience teaches us that endings can be abrupt, a final message, a last breath, a door closing without warning. Against this emotional background, the universe offers a very different relationship with disappearance. In the cosmos, nothing truly vanishes all at once. Even when something ends, it continues to arrive for a long time. If Andromeda were to cease existing today, if every star went dark, every structure dissolved, every atom scattered, the night sky would not change. Not tomorrow, not next year, not even within 1,000 human lifetimes. For more than 2 million years, Andromeda would remain visible, unchanged, quietly present as if nothing had happened. Its light would continue its journey, indifferent to the fact that its source no longer existed. This delay between event and perception is not an error in the universe. It is one of its fundamental features. Light moves at a finite speed, and because of this, seeing is always an act of looking into the past. Every star you see is already history. Every galaxy is a memory. The night sky is not a real-time display of the universe as it is now, but an archive of how it once was. This idea can feel unsettling at first. It suggests that we are always out of sync with reality, always receiving echoes rather than immediacy. But with time, it often becomes comforting. The universe does not rush loss into awareness. It allows presence to linger. It stretches goodbyes across vast spans of time, softening their impact. In everyday life, impermanence feels harsh because it is often immediate. What is gone feels gone. But the cosmos operates differently. It builds delay into perception, ensuring that disappearance is never abrupt. Even the death of a star can illuminate space for thousands of years afterward. Even the end of a galaxy leaves behind light that continues to travel, carrying its image forward. This means that the sky above you is filled with things that no longer exist, and yet they are still here, still visible, still arriving. The universe does not erase its past. It carries it with remarkable patience. To live beneath such a sky is to live surrounded by deep time. Every photon touching your eyes tonight began its journey long before you were born, long before your worries took their current shape. Some of that light comes from stars that burned out millions of years ago, some from galaxies that may no longer resemble the images we see. And yet, their presence remains. This has profound emotional implications. It suggests that loss is not as final as it feels, that what mattered continues to reach us, even after its source has changed or disappeared. The universe models a form of continuity that does not deny impermanence, but reframes it. We are always living among afterimages, not in a deceptive sense, but in a truthful one. The present moment is layered with the past, infused with it, inseparable from it. This is not nostalgia, it is physics. When people fear loss, they often fear the sudden absence of connection, the silence where something once was. But the universe suggests that connection does not end abruptly. It fades gradually, stretched across time, allowing the mind and heart to adjust. If Andromeda disappeared, its light would continue to arrive night after night, unchanged. The familiar glow would remain. Astronomers would still photograph it. People would still point to it in the sky. The galaxy would, for all practical purposes, still exist, not because it does, but because the universe preserves its image. This preservation is not selective. It applies to everything. Every moment you have ever experienced continues to exist in the universe as information carried forward. The universe does not forget. It transforms. The night sky, then, is not just a map of space. It is an emotional archive, a record of endurance, a reminder that nothing meaningful is erased instantly. Even when change occurs, its effects unfold slowly, gently, allowing continuity to cushion transition. This perspective can ease the fear of impermanence that often surfaces in quiet moments. The fear that time is stealing things too quickly, that moments slip away before they can be fully held. The universe shows that nothing truly slips away, it simply moves into a different phase of visibility. To say that everything you see is from the past is not to say it is irrelevant. On the contrary, it is to say that the past remains active. It continues to shape perception. It continues to arrive. The present is never free of what came before. This is why the sky can feel comforting during moments of grief. It offers continuity without demand. Stars do not disappear when you look away. Galaxies do not withdraw their light because time has passed. They continue regardless of whether they still exist in the way we imagine. If you have ever loved something or someone and feared losing it, the universe offers a quiet metaphor. What you love continues to arrive within you for a long time. Memories, influences, changes in perspective, these are forms of light, carrying the past forward. Loss does not erase impact. It transforms the way impact is felt. The delay between event and perception gives space for meaning to settle. It prevents the sharp edge of finality from arriving all at once. In this sense, the universe is kind. It does not confront consciousness with immediate absence. It allows presence to taper. The idea that Andromeda could be gone and still visible reminds us that existence is not binary. Things do not simply exist or not exist. They transition, they echo, they persist in influence long after their original form has changed. This is true not only of galaxies, but of lives. The effects of a life extend far beyond its duration. Words spoken continue to shape others. Actions ripple forward. Existence leaves traces that do not vanish when the source does. To live in a universe like this is to live surrounded by continuity. Even endings are gradual. Even disappearance is slow. Even loss is cushioned by time. As you imagine Andromeda now, shining quietly in the sky, remember that you are looking at a message sent long ago, patiently arriving. It does not hurry. It does not announce its age. It simply arrives night after night, offering itself without condition. Perhaps this is why the night sky feels different from the day. It carries depth. It carries memory. It carries the reassurance that nothing meaningful disappears without leaving something behind. In a cosmos where light itself takes millions of years to say goodbye, there is room for grief to soften, for fear to loosen, for impermanence to feel less abrupt. Everything you love continues to arrive for a while, and in that gentle delay, the universe offers space to breathe, to remember, and to rest beneath a sky that is always holding more history than the mind can carry, yet never asking you to hold it all. As the night continues to deepen, there is no clear boundary between what has been said and what remains unsaid. The universe does not close chapters abruptly. It allows them to dissolve slowly, like starlight thinning as dawn approaches, never truly gone, only shifting beyond immediate view. This ending is not a conclusion in the human sense. It is a gentle widening, a soft release back into the quiet continuity that has been present all along. If you find yourself still awake, listening without effort, that is enough. If sleep has already begun to pull at the edges of your awareness, that too is enough. The cosmos does not ask for full attention. It does not demand comprehension or memory. It simply exists, carrying you whether you are conscious of it or not. Andromeda does not require you to keep looking. It shines regardless. Over these long moments together, scale has slowly changed its meaning. What once may have felt overwhelming has been allowed to soften. Distance became duration. Vastness became patience. Time became something spacious rather than threatening. The universe did not shrink to fit the mind. Instead, the mind was gently invited to rest inside something larger than itself. Perhaps earlier, the idea of a galaxy approaching ours triggered thoughts of endings, of disruption, of things coming undone. Now that same idea may feel quieter, less urgent, more like a continuation than a collision. The universe rarely behaves the way anxiety imagines it will. It does not rush, it does not panic, it unfolds. Andromeda has been doing exactly that for billions of years, long before there were eyes to notice or minds to wonder. It will continue long after every worry you have ever held has dissolved into deep time. This is not meant to minimize your experiences. It is meant to relieve them of unnecessary weight. You were never meant to carry the universe alone. The stars do not ask you to be productive. Galaxies do not expect progress reports. Time itself does not judge how well you used it. These are human inventions, useful in small doses, exhausting when mistaken for universal truths. The cosmos operates on a different logic, one where existing is sufficient, where continuity matters more than speed, where nothing essential is lost by moving slowly. As your thoughts drift, you may notice how little effort is required now. The mind no longer strains to understand scale. It no longer tries to hold numbers in place. It allows images to blur, concepts to fade, meanings to become feelings rather than definitions. This is not confusion. It is integration. Somewhere in the dark sky, Andromeda continues its quiet presence. Its light is still on its way. It will keep arriving long after tonight has passed, long after this moment has softened into memory. Nothing about your attention changes that. Nothing about your sleep interrupts it. The universe does not need witnesses to remain real. If anxiety has accompanied you into the night, consider how small it feels when placed beside galactic time, not dismissed, but gently reframed. Worries live on short timescales. They feel enormous because they are close. When viewed from farther away, they often lose their sharpness, becoming textures rather than threats. The universe does not solve your problems. It does something quieter and often more helpful. It gives them room. In that room, urgency dissolves. Perspective widens. The nervous system, no longer cornered by immediacy, begins to relax. Nothing in the cosmos is ever truly alone. Even the most isolated galaxy is threaded into the universe by gravity, by history, by shared origin. The same is true for you. Even when you feel disconnected, even when silence feels heavy, you remain part of something continuous and vast, something that does not require you to perform in order to belong. Belonging in the cosmic sense is passive. It is not earned. It is not revoked. It is simply the condition of existing within a structured universe. And you do. As this journey settles into stillness, there is no need to remember details, no need to recall facts or follow arguments. Let the images drift away. Let the words thin out. What remains is not information but atmosphere, a sense of space large enough to hold everything you feel without pressure. The universe slows down for those who listen, but it also continues for those who sleep. You are allowed to let go now, allowed to stop following, allowed to sink into rest, knowing that nothing essential will be missed. Andromeda will still be there. The stars will still be moving. Time will still be unfolding patiently. If sleep arrives, let it come without ceremony. If wakefulness lingers, let it linger without resistance. Both states belong to the same continuum, just as day and night belong to the same turning planet, just as the Milky Way and Andromeda belong to the same cosmic family. And perhaps, as the night carries you forward, one final thought can remain, not as a question that demands an answer, but as an open space where the mind can rest. What if the vastness of the universe is not meant to overwhelm you, but to remind you that there is room, enough room, for everything you are, everything you feel, and everything you have yet to become? There is a moment, usually unnoticed, when thought begins to loosen its grip on structure. It does not stop suddenly. It simply becomes less interested in holding edges. Sentences no longer feel like steps leading somewhere. They become waves, rising and dissolving without urgency. This is the place where understanding gives way to presence, where the universe no longer feels like something to think about, but something to rest inside. By now, Andromeda no longer needs to be described. It does not need size, distance, or definition. It has already done its quiet work. It has expanded the frame just enough for the mind to feel less confined, less pressed against itself. What remains is not information but atmosphere, a wide internal sky where thoughts can drift without needing direction. In this space, time behaves differently. It does not line itself into before and after. It spreads. Moments become soft and interchangeable. Whether seconds pass or minutes dissolve no longer matters. The body continues its quiet functions, breathing, circulating, maintaining balance, while awareness floats lightly above the need to track any of it. The universe is filled with regions like this, vast areas where nothing dramatic happens, where matter drifts slowly, where gravity hums so gently it feels like silence. Most of existence unfolds in this way, not in explosions or events, but in long stretches of calm continuity. This is the dominant state of the cosmos, though it rarely receives attention. Your inner world has the same capacity. Beneath the surface of thought and emotion lies a wide field where nothing is demanded, a place that does not react, does not anticipate, does not judge. It is always there, though often overlooked, waiting for attention to grow tired enough to release control. As awareness settles into this field, scale becomes something felt rather than calculated. The difference between a heartbeat and a billion years no longer needs to be resolved. Both exist within the same continuum, equally real, equally unhurried. The universe does not privilege one scale over another. It holds them all without tension. Stars are forming somewhere right now, though not urgently. Galaxies are moving, though not noticeably. Space itself is expanding, though not in a way that disrupts the present moment. Everything continues quietly, without demanding acknowledgement. You are allowed to mirror this rhythm. If thoughts arise, let them pass through without engagement. They are like distant lights seen from the corner of the eye, present but not requiring focus. The universe does not ask you to follow every star. It allows most of them to remain background, contributing to the whole without insisting on attention. There is a deep kindness in this arrangement. Most things do not compete to be seen. Most processes unfold invisibly. The cosmos is not crowded with urgency. It is spacious enough to let almost everything happen in silence. Andromeda exists mostly in this silence. Its brightest stars are rare exceptions. The majority of its mass is dark, quiet, unseen. The galaxy does not announce itself loudly. It does not insist on recognition. It simply continues, held together by forces that operate without awareness. This is an invitation, not an instruction. An invitation to allow your own internal brightness to dim slightly, not as loss, but as relief. To let effort fall away, to stop illuminating every corner of the mind. Darkness, in the cosmic sense, is not absence, it is rest. The night sky has always served this function for humanity. Long before explanations existed, people looked up and felt something loosen. Worries shrank, breath slowed, perspective widened. The stars did not solve problems. They made space around them. That same space is available now, inwardly. You do not need to visualize galaxies or imagine distances. Simply noticing the absence of urgency is enough. The feeling that nothing needs to happen next, that there is no task waiting beyond this moment. In the universe, most time is not eventful. Most regions are quiet. Most matter is stable. This is not boredom, it is balance. Without it, nothing could last. If you find yourself drifting toward sleep, let it happen without commentary. Sleep is not a departure from the universe. It is participation in one of its most fundamental rhythms. Countless organisms across this planet are resting now, aligned briefly in stillness, while the Earth continues its steady motion through space. Andromeda does not know whether you are awake or asleep. It does not change its behavior based on your attention. This is not indifference. It is freedom. You are free to rest because nothing depends on your vigilance. Even awareness itself can soften. You do not need to stay present. Presence does not disappear when attention fades. It simply becomes less focused, more diffuse, like starlight spread across a wide sky. There is no edge to this moment, no signal marking where it ends. Just a gentle continuation, one breath blending into the next, one thought dissolving into quiet. This is how the universe spends most of its time, not arriving, not leaving, simply being. If anything remains with you now, let it be this feeling of spaciousness, not as an idea but as a condition, a sense that there is room, more than enough room, for everything you are carrying to rest without pressure. Nothing is required of you here, not understanding, not attention, not even wakefulness. The universe continues regardless, patient and vast, holding this moment exactly as it holds galaxies, without hurry, without judgment, without demand. And in that holding, you are already at rest. At a certain depth of night, questions begin to lose their urgency, not because they have been answered, but because the need for answers gently dissolves. The universe does not insist on resolution. It does not demand conclusions or clarity before allowing rest. It simply continues, steady and vast, offering a kind of quiet permission to stop reaching outward and begin settling inward. This is a different kind of understanding, one that does not rely on words or concepts. It is closer to recognition than explanation, a sense that nothing essential is missing, even when nothing is being actively held in the mind. The stars do not require interpretation to shine. Galaxies do not wait for comprehension to exist, and you do not need to grasp the universe for it to carry you. At this point in the night, awareness often becomes softer, less centralized. Thoughts may appear briefly and then fade, like faint reflections on dark water. Memory loosens its structure. The body feels heavier, more present, less compelled to move. This is not a loss of control. It is a return to a more natural state, one where vigilance is no longer necessary. The universe spends most of its time in conditions like this, long stretches where nothing demands attention, where matter drifts, energy flows, and time unfolds without interruption. Explosions and events capture interest because they are rare. Silence and continuity are the norm. Andromeda exists mostly in this quiet state. For every moment of star formation, there are millions of years of slow orbiting. For every bright supernova, there are countless stars burning steadily, without drama, without change visible on human timescales. The galaxy is not a sequence of highlights. It is an expanse of endurance. This endurance is not effortful. It is not sustained by tension or striving. It arises from balance, gravity matched by motion, pressure matched by release. When systems find this balance, they can persist for billions of years without urgency. The universe demonstrates again and again that stability does not come from constant activity, but from deep alignment. The human body recognizes this alignment instinctively. When external stimulation fades, internal rhythms begin to surface. Breathing becomes slower and deeper. Muscles release small tensions that were never consciously noticed. The nervous system shifts from alertness to maintenance, from scanning to restoration. This shift does not need to be forced. It happens naturally when the environment feels safe enough. The night sky has always been one of the signals of safety. Darkness, contrary to its reputation, often tells the body that it can rest, that movement is less necessary, that attention can widen without threat. The stars provide orientation without urgency, light without demand. Even now, as you listen or rest, the Earth continues its motion. It rotates steadily, carrying oceans, continents, and atmospheres through space. This motion is constant, reliable, and unnoticed most of the time. You do not feel it, yet it supports everything you do. The same is true of countless processes within you. Heartbeats, neural signals, chemical exchanges, all happening without conscious involvement. The universe is full of these unseen supports. dark matter holding galaxies together, gravity shaping paths without being visible, time allowing processes to complete without pressure. Much of reality operates quietly, beneath the threshold of awareness, doing essential work without asking to be noticed. This can be a relief to consider. So much of modern life trains attention outward, rewarding constant awareness, constant response. But the cosmos does not function this way. It allows most of its work to remain invisible. It trusts underlying structures to do what they do. Trust is not a concept often associated with physics, yet it appears everywhere. Stars trust gravity to balance fusion. Galaxies trust motion to prevent collapse. Systems persist because they do not interfere with their own equilibrium. They do not hurry what cannot be rushed. As awareness drifts further, even the idea of Andromeda may begin to fade into abstraction. It no longer needs to be visualized. It has already done its work. It has stretched perspective, softened urgency, and offered scale as comfort rather than threat. Now it can recede into the background, like distant music no longer consciously heard. This is not forgetting, it is integration. Information transforms into atmosphere. Knowledge becomes feeling. The universe becomes less something you think about and more something you are within. In this state, the boundary between inner and outer experience grows thin. The rhythm of breath mirrors the rhythm of cosmic expansion, slow, steady, unforced. The mind does not need to follow this parallel. It is enough that the body feels it. Sleep, if it arrives, is not an interruption. It is a continuation. Consciousness does not vanish when sleep begins. It changes form, becoming less focused, more diffuse, like light spread across a wider surface. The universe does not require consciousness to be sharp. It accommodates all states. If wakefulness remains, it too is acceptable. Stillness does not demand unconsciousness. Some nights are meant for quiet awareness, where thoughts come and go without attachment, where time feels suspended rather than measured. There is no correct way to inhabit this moment. The cosmos does not grade experience. It does not rank states of mind. It simply allows them all to exist within the same vast container. Even now, far beyond this planet, Andromeda continues its slow motion. Stars orbit. Gas drifts. Gravity whispers across distances too large to imagine. None of this depends on observation. None of it changes based on attention. This independence can feel strangely supportive. It means you are not responsible for keeping the universe intact. Responsibility, when overextended, becomes weight. The universe does not carry unnecessary weight. It distributes load naturally, allowing no single component to bear more than it must. Perhaps this is why thinking about cosmic scale often brings relief. It redistributes concern. Whatever you carried into this night, worries, fatigue, unanswered questions, does not need to be resolved now. It can be set down temporarily, not because it is unimportant, but because it is allowed to rest. Problems do not require constant holding to remain real. They can exist without attention for a while. The universe demonstrates this constantly. Structures persist even when unobserved. Processes continue without supervision. Trust is built into reality at the deepest levels. As this extended drift continues, words become less necessary. Meaning becomes quieter. There is nothing new to introduce, nothing to explain. Only a continuation of space, both outer and inner, wide enough to hold whatever remains. If there is a feeling left, let it be this, that you are not out of place here, not in the universe, not in this moment, not in stillness. Everything about your presence aligns naturally with a cosmos that has always made room for quiet. The night does not need to end. It does not need to progress toward anything. It can simply be what it is, a wide, patient pause in the ongoing motion of everything. And within that pause, you are already exactly where you need to be. There comes a point in long nights like this when even drifting feels like an effort, when the mind no longer wants to move from one idea to the next, not because it is tired in a sharp way, but because it has reached a depth where motion is unnecessary. The universe has places like this too, regions where change happens so slowly that stillness becomes the dominant experience. Not absence of motion, but motion so gentle it feels like rest. This chapter exists in that space. Nothing new needs to be introduced here. The stars have already spoken in their own quiet way. Andromeda has already expanded the frame wide enough for urgency to dissolve. What remains is a kind of listening that does not seek information, a listening that allows the background of existence to come forward. The universe is not loud. Even its most dramatic events happen in near silence, unfolding in vacuums where sound has no medium. What we call cosmic noise is almost always translated. Radio waves converted to sound, data rendered into something the human mind can recognize. In reality, space is overwhelmingly quiet, not empty, but quiet. This quiet is not a lack. It is a condition that allows complexity to persist without constant disruption. If the universe were loud in the way human environments are loud, nothing would last. Stars would be unstable. Systems would tear themselves apart. Silence is what allows endurance. The human nervous system understands this instinctively. Loud, unpredictable environments demand constant vigilance. Quiet, stable ones allow the body to release control. When the world grows quieter, the mind follows. Thoughts lose their sharp edges. The sense of self becomes less rigid, more diffuse. In the cosmic sense, identity is always diffuse. A star is not a closed system. It exchanges energy with its surroundings, loses mass through stellar winds, influences space far beyond its surface. A galaxy is not an object with a clear boundary. It is a gradient of influence, fading slowly into intergalactic space. Nothing exists in isolation, and nothing needs to. When you stop trying to locate yourself precisely, emotionally, conceptually, existentially, something softens. You are not required to define your position in the universe. You are already within it, held by forces that do not require your awareness. Time here becomes less linear. It no longer feels like something moving forward. It feels more like something spreading outward. Past and future lose their urgency, becoming textures rather than destinations. This is how the universe experiences time at large scales, not as a sequence of moments, but as a continuum where everything exists within a vast temporal landscape. Andromeda, in this sense, is not approaching or receding. It is simply participating in the same temporal field as you, just at a different density of change. Its stars evolve slowly. Its structure shifts gently. Its history is long enough to feel almost static, yet nothing within it is frozen. Stillness in the universe is always dynamic at a deeper level. What feels unmoving is often balanced, forces canceling each other just enough to create stability. This is true in galaxies, in planetary systems, in bodies at rest. Stillness is not the absence of activity, it is the absence of imbalance. This idea can be surprisingly grounding. Many people associate rest with stopping completely, with doing nothing, with shutting down. But true rest is closer to equilibrium than inactivity. It is the state where effort and demand align, where no excess energy is required to maintain existence. The night offers this state naturally. As sensory input decreases, internal systems no longer need to compensate. Muscles release, breathing deepens, awareness widens instead of narrowing. There is less to manage. The universe does not reward vigilance at all times. It allows long periods of rest between moments of change. Stars spend most of their lives in stable burning phases. Galaxies spend most of their histories in relative equilibrium. Even the expansion of the universe itself is smooth, not jerky, unfolding evenly across immense scales. In this context, Anxiety appears as a mismatch, a local surge of urgency within a system that is otherwise patient. This does not make anxiety wrong. It makes it understandable. It is a response shaped by small-scale pressures, operating within a much larger, calmer reality. When the mind is allowed to align with that larger reality, even briefly, anxiety often loosens. Not because problems are solved, but because their scale is adjusted. They become part of a wider landscape, rather than isolated threats. There is no need to visualize galaxies now. No need to recall distances or structures. Those were bridges to this quieter place. Now the bridge has done its work. The universe no longer needs to be imagined. It can simply be felt as space, around thoughts, around sensations, around silence itself. If you notice gaps between thoughts, let them remain empty. There is no need to fill them. The universe does not fill all of its space with matter. Most of it is open, expansive, lightly structured. That openness is not wasteful, it is essential. In intergalactic space, where matter is sparse, galaxies are free to move without constant collision. Emptiness provides room. In the mind, emptiness serves the same function. It prevents overload. It allows motion without friction. You do not need to occupy every moment with awareness. Awareness can thin out. Attention can drift. Consciousness does not disappear when it is not focused. It simply becomes more spacious. The universe is comfortable with this. It does not insist on constant activity. It allows vast regions to remain dark, cold, and quiet for billions of years. These regions are not failures of creation. They are part of its design. As this chapter continues, it is less something you follow and more something you float within. Words become background texture rather than carriers of meaning. If they fade, that is fine. If they blur together, that is fine. Nothing important is encoded in sequence anymore. The deepest calm often arrives not when something is understood, but when nothing needs to be processed. When experience is allowed to exist without interpretation. This is not emptiness in a threatening sense, it is fullness without pressure. Somewhere, Andromeda continues its slow orbit, its gravity shaping paths too subtle to notice. Somewhere, stars are burning steadily, indifferent to observation. Somewhere, time is unfolding without concern for schedules. Here, in this moment, you are allowed to mirror that indifference, not as detachment, but as trust. Trust that nothing essential will be missed if you rest. Trust the universe does not require your constant participation. If sleep arrives, let it arrive without ceremony. If wakefulness remains, let it remain without effort. Both are expressions of the same underlying rhythm, one that has been present long before thought and will remain long after. This chapter does not end. It simply thins out, like starlight spreading across darkness, becoming less distinct, more ambient, until it no longer needs to be followed at all. And in that thinning, you are already resting inside the vast, quiet continuity that has been here the entire time. At the far edge of wakefulness, there is a subtle shift that often goes unnoticed. The mind stops trying to move forward and instead begins to spread outward. Thoughts no longer line up in sequence. They hover, overlap, dissolve, reform. This is not confusion, it is expansion without effort, the same kind of expansion that fills the universe itself, slow, even, without direction or destination. In this space, time feels different. It no longer presses from behind or pulls from ahead. It becomes something like a horizon, always present, never reached. The universe exists comfortably in this relationship with time. It does not experience urgency. It does not anticipate. It does not remember in the way humans remember. It simply unfolds, moment by moment, without needing to keep track of where it has been or where it is going. Andromeda, like all galaxies, lives entirely within this wide horizon. Its past is not behind it. Its future is not ahead of it. Both are woven into its present structure, into the orbits of its stars, the distribution of its gas, the shape of its invisible halo. Time is not something Andromeda moves through, it is something Andromeda is made of. This can be difficult to translate into human terms because human experience is built around sequence. We remember, we anticipate, we measure. We feel pressure because we believe time is scarce and directional, something that can be lost or wasted. The universe does not share this belief. It treats time as abundant, as space-like, as something that contains events rather than being consumed by them. When this perspective begins to settle, even briefly, the sensation of being chased by time can loosen. The feeling that moments are slipping away loses some of its sharpness. Nothing is being taken. Everything is simply changing form. The stars in Andromeda are not racing toward an ending. They are not counting down their fuel in anxious awareness. They burn because burning is what physics allows them to do. When they change because conditions shift, not because a clock demands it. There is no failure in taking a long time. There is no success in finishing early. Human life often feels different because it is filled with milestones, comparisons, and imagined deadlines. These can be useful tools, but they are not universal truths. When they become too heavy, it can help to rest briefly inside a system that does not use them at all. In the late-night quiet, the body often understands this before the mind does. Muscles soften, breathing finds a deeper rhythm. The boundary between effort and rest becomes less defined. You are no longer actively relaxing. Relaxation is simply happening. The universe mirrors this state constantly. Most of its matter exists in equilibrium, not changing rapidly, not collapsing, not exploding. Even change itself is often balanced, unfolding in ways that preserve continuity. Catastrophe is rare, stability is common. This stability is not fragile. It does not require constant monitoring. Galaxies do not need to check themselves to remain intact. Gravity and motion handle that quietly. In the same way, your body does not need instructions to sleep. It already knows how. Awareness does not need to supervise. At this stage of the night, even meaning can rest. There is no need to extract insight or lesson. The universe is not a puzzle that demands solving. It is an environment that allows existence. Sometimes the most honest response to it is not curiosity, but trust. Trust that nothing essential is being missed. Trust that awareness can narrow or widen as needed. Trust that rest does not erase anything important. The cosmos has been trusting its own processes for billions of years, and it has done so successfully. Andromeda continues its slow movement, not toward a goal, but within a pattern. Patterns do not hurry. They repeat, adjust, and persist. When patterns are stable, they create room for complexity to arise without stress. Your own internal patterns respond to this environment. When stimulation decreases and safety increases, the nervous system shifts naturally. There is less scanning, less readiness, less internal noise. This is not something you need to cause. It is something that happens when conditions allow. The night allows it. The quiet allows it. The sense of vastness allows it. Even if thoughts return, they return more gently now. They do not demand resolution. They appear like distant lights, visible but not compelling. You can let them be part of the background, contributing to atmosphere rather than focus. The universe does this constantly. Most stars are background to any given observation. Only a few stand out brightly. Yet the background is what gives the scene its depth. Without it, brightness would feel harsh and isolated. In the same way, mental quiet does not erase thought. It contextualizes it. It places it within a wider field where no single idea needs to dominate. As this chapter continues, it does not build toward anything. It remains open, spacious, unfinished in the most peaceful way. Like the universe itself, it does not rush toward closure. If you are still awake, that is fine. If sleep has come and gone in waves, that is fine. There is no correct rhythm here. The cosmos accommodates all of them simultaneously. Somewhere beyond awareness, processes continue. Cells repair, memory integrates, hormones shift. None of this requires conscious participation. The universe does not ask stars to manage their fusion. It does not ask galaxies to coordinate their orbits. It allows systems to function by being what they are. You are allowed the same simplicity. As the night stretches on, let the idea of time widen rather than tighten. Let moments exist without being counted. Let existence be enough without justification. Andromeda does not measure its worth by how brightly it shines on any given night. It exists across billions of years, indifferent to momentary visibility. Your own existence does not need to prove itself constantly either. It is already part of something vast and continuous. This horizon does not need to be crossed. It does not need to be understood. It is simply there, wide, patient, holding this moment without expectation. And within it, you are free to rest, to drift, or simply to remain, carried quietly by a universe that has never been in a hurry. There is a particular quality to the hours that come before dawn. Not quite night, not yet morning, but something in between, a thinning of darkness, a softening of edges. The world feels suspended as if time itself has paused to take a breath. In these hours, the universe feels closer, not because it has moved, but because the noise that usually separates us from it has fallen away. This is a time when the mind no longer seeks stimulation. It is content to rest inside impressions rather than ideas. Thoughts appear slowly, if at all, and when they do, they carry less weight. They drift like faint clouds across a wide internal sky, never gathering enough density to become storm. The universe spends most of its existence in states like this. Long epochs where nothing dramatic happens, where stars burn steadily, where galaxies maintain their shapes, where change occurs so gradually it is almost indistinguishable from stillness. These periods do not exist between events. They are the substance of cosmic time itself. Andromeda has lived through countless such quiet hours, not hours measured by clocks, but spans measured by stability. Millions of years where its spiral arms held their form. Hundreds of millions of years where stars completed slow orbits around its core. Billions of years where gravity maintained balance without intervention. This quiet persistence is the dominant experience of the universe, yet it rarely appears in stories. Human attention is drawn to beginnings and endings, to collisions and explosions, to moments that feel decisive. But these moments are brief interruptions in an otherwise calm continuum. The universe is not dramatic by default. It is patient. When the mind aligns with this patience, something fundamental shifts. The need to label experiences as meaningful or meaningless begins to dissolve. Existence no longer needs to justify itself through intensity. A moment can simply be what it is, complete without emphasis. In these quiet hours, even the sense of self often becomes softer. Identity loosens its boundaries. You may feel less like a defined point and more like a region. Awareness spread gently across sensation, memory, and silence. This is not disorientation. It is a natural response to reduced demand. The universe does not operate from a single point of view. It is not centralized. There is no cosmic observer holding everything together. Instead, reality emerges from countless local interactions, all unfolding simultaneously, without oversight. In this way, the universe resembles a field more than an object, continuous, distributed, resilient. You are part of that field, not as an observer standing outside it, but as one of its expressions. Your thoughts, your rest, your quiet awareness are not interruptions in the universe's activity. They are examples of it. The approach of dawn does not disrupt this. The universe does not mark transitions sharply. Night becomes morning gradually, almost imperceptibly. Light increases without announcement. Colors return slowly. There is no moment when darkness suddenly ends. It thins, fades, transforms. Time works the same way at cosmic scales. Eras do not end abruptly. Galaxies do not suddenly become something else. They evolve through long periods of overlap, where old structures coexist with new ones. Change is rarely clean. It is layered, patient, forgiving. This gentleness can be felt internally as well. Even when worries remain unresolved, their edges soften in quiet moments. They lose the urgency that made them feel overwhelming. They become part of a wider landscape rather than dominating it. The universe does not insist that everything be resolved before rest is allowed. It allows unfinished processes to continue without tension. Stars burn without knowing how they will end. Galaxies evolve without anticipating their future forms. Existence unfolds without foresight. There is freedom in this. Freedom from the belief that clarity must precede peace. Freedom from the idea that understanding is a prerequisite for rest. The cosmos demonstrates that stability does not require certainty. As these quiet hours stretch on, awareness may dip in and out. Moments of sleep may blend with moments of wakefulness. Images may arise without narrative. Sensations may float without labels. This is not something to correct. It is the nervous system doing what it does best when given space. The universe does not maintain sharp distinctions between states. Day and night blend. Matter and energy transform into one another. Past and present overlap through light. Boundaries are useful approximations, not absolute divisions. In this softened state, even the idea of Andromeda may feel distant in a new way, not far but diffused. Less an object to contemplate, more a presence woven into the background of awareness. Its purpose here is complete. It has served as a reminder of scale, patience, and continuity. Now it can recede, leaving behind a sense of spaciousness. Nothing needs to replace it. Silence is sufficient. If you notice the body growing heavier, more settled, allow it. Gravity is not something to resist. It is the same force that shapes galaxies, holding stars in their paths, keeping systems intact. On Earth, it gently invites rest, contact, grounding. The universe is full of invitations like this, though they are rarely framed as such. It invites slowness through scale. It invites humility through vastness. It invites rest through continuity. You are not required to accept these invitations consciously. They work regardless. The cosmos does not wait for consent to function. It simply includes you. As dawn approaches, whether seen or unseen, the universe continues its quiet work. Stars do not dim because the sun rises. They are still there, still burning, simply outshone for a while. Nothing essential disappears when attention shifts. The same is true of this calm. It does not vanish when the day begins. It recedes gently, becoming less noticeable, but it remains available, waiting beneath surface activity. The universe does not reserve peace for special moments. It embeds it deeply into its structure, making it accessible whenever urgency subsides. In these final quiet hours, there is nothing left to add. No final lesson, no concluding thought. The universe does not conclude. It continues. And you, here within it, are allowed to continue too, slowly, gently, without pressure, carried forward by a reality that has always known how to hold itself, and you without hurry. There is a phase of night where even quiet begins to feel complete. Not full, not finished, but settled, as if nothing more is required for the moment to be whole. The universe often lives in this state, not anticipating the next change, not holding on to the previous one, simply continuing because continuation is its natural condition. This is where the long arc of attention finally loosens its shape. Awareness no longer moves forward through ideas. It rests in the background, wide and unpressured. Thoughts, if they appear at all, are slow and indistinct, like reflections that never fully form. They do not ask to be followed. They do not need to be resolved. The universe does not experience completion the way human stories do. There is no final scene, no closing frame where everything is explained. Galaxies do not reach an endpoint where their purpose is fulfilled. They persist, change, adapt, merge, disperse, always remaining part of something larger. Endings, when they happen, are not conclusions. They are transitions within continuity. Andromeda itself will never truly finish becoming, even when it merges with the Milky Way, even when its stars eventually fade, even when its structure dissolves into something unrecognizable. It will still exist as matter, as energy, as influence. Nothing in the universe disappears into nothingness. It changes form, pace, visibility. This realization can feel deeply reassuring when the mind is tired of narratives that demand closure. Life rarely provides clean endings. Questions remain open, feelings remain mixed, identities shift without fully resolving. The universe suggests that this is not a flaw in experience, but its natural state. To exist without closure is not to exist incompletely. It is to exist realistically. In the final stretch of night, the body often understands this before the mind does. There is less effort to position oneself comfortably. Muscles settle where they are. Breath finds a steady rhythm without adjustment. The body stops checking whether rest is working and simply rests. The cosmos operates in a similar way. Once balance is established, there is no need for constant correction. Orbits maintain themselves. Stars burn steadily. Space expands evenly. These processes do not require monitoring. They are stable because they are aligned, not because they are controlled. Control is often mistaken for stability in human life. The belief that vigilance prevents collapse can keep the nervous system in a state of constant readiness. But the universe demonstrates another truth. Stability often comes from letting systems do what they naturally do when conditions are right. Nothing is holding Andromeda together moment by moment through effort. Gravity is not trying, it is simply present. Motion is not struggling, it is simply continuing. The galaxy remains coherent because its components are allowed to move according to their nature. You are not so different. Much of what keeps you functioning happens without conscious involvement. Heart rhythms, cellular repair, neural integration. These processes do not wait for instruction. They unfold because the conditions allow them to. Rest supports them not by doing something, but by getting out of the way. In these hours, even awareness can rest from itself. There is no need to watch the mind, no need to observe breath or sensation. Observation itself can soften, becoming less focused, more diffuse. This is not losing awareness. It is awareness widening beyond the need for a center. The universe has no center. Every point is equally valid. Every location experiences itself as local. There is no privileged position from which everything else is arranged. This decentralization is what allows the universe to be so resilient. When the sense of a central observer fades, experience often becomes lighter. The pressure to maintain a particular identity or perspective eases. You do not need to be the one holding everything together. Nothing falls apart when that effort stops. If sleep comes fully now, it will not interrupt anything. The universe does not pause when consciousness fades. It continues seamlessly, carrying bodies, planets, galaxies through their paths. Sleep is not an absence from reality. It is participation in one of its most ancient rhythms. If wakefulness remains, that too is fine. Stillness does not require unconsciousness. There is a form of quiet awareness that is neither effortful nor alert, simply present. The universe accommodates this state as easily as it accommodates sleep. Nothing needs to change for this moment to be valid. The long night has not been a journey toward understanding, but toward permission. Permission to slow, permission to not know, permission to exist without urgency. Andromeda served as a guide not by instruction,